السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. بسم الله الذي لا إله سواه والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وآله وصحبه ومن والاه. رب زدنا علما ولا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. اللهم افتح مسامع قلوبنا لذكرك. Inshallah ta'ala, today, from now until maybe even until 6:30, we'll be delving into the fiqh of zakat, what we all need to know essentially and basically, and maybe even at a more intermediate and sometimes advanced level, on the fiqh of zakat. It will be partly interactive, these sessions or this seminar, partly, and then maybe we leave questions. If you have questions, personal questions, we leave them at the end of the program and the last hour, where, inshallah ta'ala, your questions, if not answered already during the presentation, I hope that they would be answered during the question and answer session at the end, inshallah ta'ala. But in the course of my presentation, if there is anything I say which is not clear, not questions about your issues, but in what I say and I try to explain of principles and teachings that is not clear, you can raise your hands and ask a question for me to re-clarify it again and to explain it again, inshallah ta'ala. But questions pertaining to issues of zakah itself and ahkam of zakah and so on, and examples that you may have that would not have been answered during the course of this seminar, then you leave them at the end of the sessions again, as I said, during the question and answer sessions, inshallah ta'ala. I think it's very important to learn about our aspects of our deen. Zakah is something many people, even some students of ilm, are not as familiar with as they are, for example, about salah and the fiqh of salah, etc. And we need to learn more about that. We need to listen more and more about that. And the more we learn, the more we listen, the more we get more acquainted with the fiqh of zakah. And I'm sure if I'm going to ask a question, I don't know how many will know the answer. And I will start with that. I'm going to ask a question, just a question, not a usual one in the fiqh of zakah. And you're going to tell me, how does this have to do with zakah at all? Assume you're walking the street and you found $100. Or you're walking somewhere where there's nobody in a forest, and you found a piece of gold, or you found $500. What does the Shara say about that? What do you do with that? Yes. We have to what? Have it? What do you mean, have it? It's the wrong answer. The way you put it, you have to have it for 1 year. That's the wrong answer. You have to what? Announce it. That's good, but not good enough of an answer. The way you said it. Yes. You don't what? Pick it up. Wrong answer. You may. Well, that's what she said. You don't pick it up. Wrong answer. And usually you will pick it up, don't you? Now, good but not good enough. That and that one together, and that one. 1, 2, 3. That's the answer. First of all, and that's the answer only if it is found in a place, in a street, in a place where there are living people. There is habitat. There is a population. Then You keep it with you as long as 1 year, announcing it and waiting for the owner to come and pick it up. If they don't, after 1 year, it is yours. And if you found it in a place where there is no population, piece of gold or $100, you found it in a place where there is no population. What is the answer? Same thing, right? No. Any answer to that question? Yeah? Well, that's what I thought. That's what I think expected. If somebody had the answer, that would be very good. And that's fiqh. That's part of the fiqh of zakah, which many of us don't know. What you do in that case, in accordance to the text of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then you found it in such a place, it is yours, but you give the fifth of it in zakah immediately. Al-Khumus. The fifth of it goes fi masarif zakah, goes as expenditure into the affairs of zakah, into the recipients of zakah. Sure, probably you found things like that and you never cared. So this is the same text about al-Rukaz. It is also if you find a treasure in a desert or in the forest or under the ground, a treasure, or you found this lost treasure somewhere, or this lost property somewhere, but it's in a place where there is no people living around, then that, once you find it, it's in your possession, immediately you give 1/5 of it, 20%, 1/5 of it in zakah. So do you think it's worth to learn about zakah? Once this example, nobody of us knew. And yet you might have been subject to that sometime. Remember, questions only if pertaining to things that are not clear about what I said. Questions about zakah, ahkam, leave them at the end. Yes, please.
So what happens when you find the actual owner comes up after you pay 1?
Yeah. Well, that's usually, it's in a lost place where there are no population who would come and say it's mine. By what evidence? That's why the text differentiates between in a place where there is a population or close to it, which means there is likelihood that someone owns it, is around, and that's why you keep it for a year until he shows up and shows evidence that that is his or hers or theirs, then you must give it to them because you're keeping it for them only. And if after that year nobody comes, after 1 year, then it becomes yours. But during that year you have done what should be done in accordance to the custom and the laws, so that it is announced in a way that the owner would know. Pardon me? Little or much, does not matter. Unless, yes, you're right. Unless what you find is something that people don't care about, like a penny, a dime, a quarter, maybe $1 nowadays, but not $1 in the value of $1 in India, in a village. That's a lot of money. But here it's dollar is that you can keep. But if you found it in the masjid, no, you don't keep it. You find it in the masjid, you give it back, either in donation to the masjid, or you bring it to lost and found, and they will try to find out their owner. If not, it belongs to the community, to the masjid's fund, inshallah ta'ala. But the best thing is always to be, alhamdulillah, to be honest and noble, and to do your best to identify the owner, even if it is $5 or so. You want to do that, especially if it is in a place where, as I said, there are people coming and going. Okay? So let's start then. First of all, the concept of zakah on property, on mal, first of all originates in the principle that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put us on this earth, and the resources of this earth, the resources of this earth, all of them, including our wealth, that we are the stewards, the vice-chairants, the trustees. We are the khalifas in a sense. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us in the Quran, هُوَ الَّذِي جَعَلَكُمْ خَلَائِفَ الْأَرْضِ. So we are khala'if on earth. Property, wealth, all of that is not actually, in reality, absolutely ours. It belongs to the creator of that wealth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's the first concept to keep in mind. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in the Quran also, أَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا جَعَلَكُمْ مُسْتَخْلَفِينَ فِيهِ. And do spend from that which Allah made you stewards thereof. So we are His stewards. That's not in the absolute sense ours. We are the stewards of Allah pertaining to anything we own, including our own selves, our own lives, including everything you think about. But mal is of that. Property, wealth is all of that. That's the principle we have to first realize to have the right attitude towards what we own and what we earn and own after we earn. All of that is actually the creation of Allah, the absolute ownership of the Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And zakah, of course, you know, zakah is a term used pertaining to that which the person gives away of the wealth he or she has in possession, that is the haqq, the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon that wealth. That's zakah. So part of my wealth is to be given away, taken out of my ownership and my possession, that being the haqq of Allah Azza wa Jal, as the fuqaha would call it, that being the right, the haqq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what do we learn from this? That zakah is a haqq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon us and the wealth we have. And because it is very, very serious and very important, yet it is given to the needy and the poor, etc., and the categories we shall talk about later, which many of you know already anyways. Though we dispense of the zakah in that way, we still call it the right of Allah. The ulama call it the right of Allah, so that to emphasize the seriousness of this activity and of this obligation. It is the right of God. Yet it is in a sense the right of the community, the right of the individual people who are recipients of zakah, yet it is called haqqullah, to emphasize its importance. And it is called zakah also because it is a twofold tazkiyah, twofold cleansing and purging and purifying. The first fold is the tazkiyah of the mal itself, of the property, of the wealth itself. In other words, to purge it, to cleanse it. Because when we do not give of zakah from that wealth is dirty, khabith, unclean, improper, facet. So, cleaning the wealth by removing from it the haqq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wealth that is kept and zakah due upon it is kept, that wealth, as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a text that we might mention later, that wealth kept that way, يفسده الزكاة التي لم تخرج. That wealth, if we have, and we did not give the zakah that is due upon it, or we mixed it with wealth of zakah due, but we did not give it, that wealth becomes khabith, becomes unclean. And so it is cleansing the wealth, becoming pure, alhamdulillah, and purged and beloved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Second, also giving zakah is a sense that zakah means also to multiply. And that is the concept of nama'ul mal bit-tazkiyah. at least in the spiritual sense, that the wealth, by giving zakah, that's how, subhanAllah, we introduce here the spiritual factor to increase the wealth. Those who give zakah, their wealth will increase in the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves, to multiply the wealth in this spiritual, clean, beautiful way. The second fold of tazkiyah through zakah is what? Yes? To purify, yes? Your heart, yourself. From what? From wealth meaning, yes. From wealth meaning what? Meaning the attachment we have to wealth, the addiction we have to wealth, the possessiveness we have for wealth. Therefore, we are in a sense slaves and possessed by our attachment to wealth. Instead of possessing the wealth, we are possessed by the wealth because it hinders our emotions and it constricts our emotions in ways that are attached to wealth, so that we're not free from that. We're attached to that, and we don't do of it, we don't spend of it in the way that is consistent with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. And we have that excessive attachment to wealth, so we are slaves to wealth. We are not liberated. Inside, a person is not hurr, is not free. And remember, Allah created us to be free human beings. Ibad of Allah. Ibad of Allah meaning slaves, loving slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Liberated human beings from every other attachment created except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then when we have that created attachment inside of us at the expense of our attachment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're not free. We're not abd Allah. We are abd al-khamisa, wa abd al-dinar, wa abd al-dirham, wa abd al-dhahab, wa abd al-mal, etc. As Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam indicates in another hadith. We become possessed and enslaved to that which we have. Instead of that which we have working for us, we are emotionally enslaved to that. So, tazkiyah of our qulub, our nufus, by zakah as well. Detaching, giving away, instead of indulging our drives inside to keep. And that's what most people are. We love to keep wealth. We love to keep wealth, and wealth is a means also for power. And we want to have power. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to liberate us inside from those excessive attachments. Amen. The hukm of zakah you all know by now, but we will mention a few things to help us impress that upon our minds and emotions. Hukm of zakah is what? What is the hukm of zakah? It is rukn of Islam. It is rukn of Islam. Rukn of Islam. What does rukn mean? Pillar, what does pillar mean? Pillar actually does not mean, rukn does not mean pillar actually. Obligatory? Huh? Fard. Good but not good enough. Rukn is not wajib, that's less than the previous statement. Fard is more than wajib, at least in the Hanafi jurisprudence. Rukn and wajib are different, they're not the same. Every rukn is wajib and fard. But not every fard and wajib is rukn. And how is that? Yes. You what? I'm sorry. In this case, rukn, yes. If we violate rukn purposely, then that for which it is rukn doesn't exist. Right? That's what rukn is. That's the difference between rukn and wajib. Wajib or fard wajib, if you don't do it, if you don't have it, if you don't do it, that does not nullify that for which it is wajib. You have committed a sin, but it does not nullify that for which it is wajib. Is this clear? Is this clear, I asked? Let me just repeat the statement. Wajib is obligatory. If we don't do a wajib for something, then that something is not nullified. But rukn, if we don't have the rukn, that for which it is rukn is nullified, doesn't exist. You should know that. Exactly. An example, rukn in salah. And many don't know that either, unfortunately. What is rukn of salah? An example, give me an example. I'm sure many of you know this part. An example of rukn in salah. Surah Al-Fatiha. Not in accordance to the Hanaf. But to the majority of the ulama, Surah Al-Fatiha, recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha is rukn. Now, if you said Allahu Akbar, Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim, Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahu samad, and you did your rak'ah, and you stood up, and you remembered that in that first rak'ah you missed Al-Fatiha, then that first rak'ah, for which it is rukn, is invalid. It does not count. Did not exist at all. That's rukn. But if you missed a wajib in that rak'ah, your rak'ah is valid, but you have committed something wrong. So rukn, now zakah being rukn in Islam means if I deny it to be obligatory in Islam, if I deny it, then I have invalidated my Islam. Did you hear what I said? What did I say? Right? In other words, if I don't give zakah, I have undone my Islam, right? That's what I said, right? No, that's not what I said. That's why I asked. I know this is going to happen. You don't listen carefully to words. And you don't think that the words that ulama use, you don't think they mean those words, not your words. I used specific words, specific nomenclature. I said, what did I say? I said, if a person denies the obligation of zakah. I did not say if the person does not give zakah. Those are two different statements. The person who denies that zakah is obligatory is out of the fold of Islam. Who denies that salah is obligatory is out of the fold of Islam. Who denies that hajj is obligatory is out of the fold of Islam. Who denies that khamr is haram is out of the fold of Islam, because that's called ma'lum min ad-din bil-darura. Things that are to be known necessarily in matters of our deen by everybody. Now, but the person who does not give zakah, but not denying that it is obligatory, that it is rukn, that person has committed a very big sin, a major sin, wal-'iyadhu billah, but is still a Muslim in general. So that's the difference. That's what I said. That's what it means. Now, zakah is a rukn of Islam. A rukn of Islam. In this manner we have explained. So again, a person who denies that zakah is obligatory, هذا نقض إسلامه. هذا من نواقض الإسلام. كمن أنكر أن الحج واجب، وكمن أنكر أن الصلاة واجبة، وكمن أنكر أي معلوم من الدين بالضرورة. Or the person who denies anything known in our deen by necessity. Many simple things are known to anyone by necessity. Khamr is haram, riba is haram. To deny that it is haram, these matters like this, That's undoing naqd the Islami for the Islam of the individual. Even give me another example of something known in our deen, not about riba or khamr or something other things. If one denies that it is haram or denies that it is obligatory, naqada Islamah. In other words, an example of ma'loom min ad-deen bil-darura. That has occurred. Indeed, a person who denies that has occurred, naqada Islamah. Because the text of the Quran is Subhanalladhi asra bi'abdihi. That's yaqinan, definitive, known, ma'loom min ad-deen bil-darura. Indeed, another example about behavior. See how aware are you, how alive are you? Yes. Then why are you not wearing lihya? If you give the example of lihya, if you don't. No, lihya, hafizakallah, there are differences amongst the ulama. Keeping the lihya, since you asked, since you mentioned that, keeping the lihya in accordance to the four ulama of the madhahib, the ulama of the madhahib, that is Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah ta'ala, Al-Malik, rahimahullah ta'ala, Shafi'i, rahimahullah ta'ala, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah ta'ala. To these ulama, keeping the beard is obligatory. But that's an understanding from the texts. One school of thought, as a school of thought, the Shafi'i school of thought, says it is makruh to shave the beard. None of them says it is mubah to shave the beard. All the schools of thought say, the three schools of thought, the Hanafi, the Maliki, and the Hanbali, says it is haram to shave the beard. As a school of thought, the Shafi'i school of thought says it is makruh to shave a beard. As a school of thought. But Imam Shafi'i's opinion is it is haram to shave the beard. But that's not ma'lumun min ad-deen bil-darura. And because of this difference, a person says, no, it is not haram, it is makruh. That's still a Muslim, and he is following an opinion of a school. Of a school of thought, in this case, the Shafi'i school of thought, for example. Now, that's not a good example, but I guess the opportunity was meant to be so that I say something about that for the first time in this community. No. Of course, those are arkan al-iman. They are arkan iman, obviously. Now, something simpler relative to this. I know, that's a good example. Lying. To lie. If one lies, did he undo his Islam? If he says lying under all circumstances is permissible in Islam, it is not haram to lie, and we try to convince him, look at the Quran, look at the Sunnah, and he says, khalas, it is not haram. That has naqada Islamah. Person has undone his Islam. Why? Because the fact that lying is haram is ma'lumun min ad-deen bil-darura. As the fuqaha put it, it is something essentially known in the deen, axiomatic. Everybody knows it. وهكذا. أين؟ خلاص, حكم الزكاة is that. By the book of Allah and by the sunnah of his Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, one of the beautiful things is that Allah Azza wa Jal in the Quran in few places, He mentions the conditions by which we become brethren of one another in Islam. A person was a mushrik, for example, and if he does certain things, then he becomes a brother of the existing Muslims already, as they all do that together. What is it? And it's in the Quran, in Surah At-Tawbah, for example, and in other places. فَإِن تَابُوا. That's tawbah. Now we come back from shirk to say, لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله وأقاموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة فإخوانكم في الدين. Says Allah Azza wa Jal سبحانه. الأخوة في الدين لا تستحق إلا بهذه الثلاثة معا سواء. Ukhuwa in deen, brotherhood in deen, is achieved when we all say La ilaha illallah and perform salah and give zakah. Then we are brothers in deen. فإخوانكم في الدين, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran in Surah At-Tawbah and elsewhere. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran as a command, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَأَطِيعُوا الرَّسُولَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. Allah, through a verb of command of establishing salah and establishing zakah and obeying Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all are commanded obligations by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, in many ayat. I'm going to mention few ayat because each one of those ayat gives us a little more information. So the first one we recited is وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَأَطِيعُوا الرَّسُولَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ in Surah Ali Imran, for example. That is very clear that giving zakah is obligatory. Allah says subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, in Surah Al-Ma'arij, for example, وَالَّذِينَ فِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ مَعْلُومٌ لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. And those in whose wealth there is a known right for the beggar and for those deprived. A right in their wealth for the sa'il wal mahrum, for the beggar, the solicitor, and the mahrum, and the deprived. Haqq, Allah calls that wealth that they have to give, that they give is a haqq, and therefore it's an obligation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions also in this part. In other parts of the Quran, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions of the zakah of the agricultural produce, He subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Al-An'am after a while, كُلُوا مِن ثَمَرِهِ إِذَا أَثْمَرَ وَآتُوا حَقَّهُ يَوْمَ حَصَادِهِ. This is in Surah Al-An'am, as Allah speaks of agricultural produce and harvesting them, and He says, كُلُوا مِن ثَمَرِهِ إِذَا أَثْمَرَ, eat of its fruits when they are ripe, when they are ready, and give its due right, the right upon it at the time of harvest. That's the zakah for the agricultural produce. When we harvest them, we give zakah immediately of them, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands in this surah and in other surahs as well. Allah in general also says in the Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah, أَنْفِقُوا مِن طَيِّبَاتِ مَا كَسَبْتُمْ وَمِمَّا أَخْرَجْنَا لَكُمْ مِنَ الْأَرْضِ. أَنْفِقُوا مِن طَيِّبَاتِ مَا كَسَبْتُمْ. Spend of that which is pure of what you earn. وَمِمَّا أَخْرَجْنَا لَكُمْ مِنَ الْأَرْضِ, and that which we brought forth out for you from within the earth. And that includes what? It includes minerals and hidden treasures and oil and gas and what else? And agricultural produce. They come out from the earth as well. All of that. That's the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in general, also in Surah At-Tawbah, خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ صَدَقَةً تُطَهِّرُهُمْ وَتُزَكِّيهِمْ بِهَا وَصَلِّ عَلَيْهِمْ. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, sadaqah here is zakah. Allah commands Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to do it through the power of the state. خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ, take from their wealth. الصدقة من here is zakah. من أموالهم صدقة تطهرهم وتزكيهم بها. The intent of which is تطهرهم, to cleanse them and to purge them with it. Indeed. But Allah also Azza wa Jal emphasizing the importance and the obligation of zakah, and an ayah that many of you know, which is very scary, in Surah At-Tawbah. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says? Very scary ayah. Threatening. Aina. That ayah in which that is there. والذين يكنزون الذهب والفضة ولا ينفقونها في سبيل الله فبشرهم بعذاب أليم يوم يحمى عليها في نار جهنم فتكوى بها جباههم وجنوبهم وظهورهم هذا ما كنزتم لأنفسكم فذوقوا ما كنتم تكنزون. Says Allah Azza wa Jal wal-'iyadhu billah. Very stern warning to those who hoard and keep their wealth, like in this case gold and silver, and do not spend thereof in the way of Allah through the obligatory zakah at least, then tell them of a severe punishment to come upon them on the day when that gold and that silver will be made to be molten in fire. And wal-'iyadhu billah, and they will be punished with that fire on their foreheads, on their sides, on their backs. And it will be said to them, taste of what you have chosen to treasure in this life. On that day when again the human body, when resurrected, and for those wal-'iyadhu billah in adhab of Jahannam, will be given bodies that are very different. So that this adhab does occur, wal-'iyadhu billah. So it's very, very serious. It's not only, alhamdulillah, it's rewarding to give in zakah, to liberate the heart, to be in Jannah, to have Allah nearness. All those beautiful things do happen. But also, if that does not happen, it is the right of the needy and the poor, and the person has preferred to keep that instead of keeping Allah in his heart, and to deprive the needy and the poor and those who have right in that wealth that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us stewards thereof and vicegerents thereof, and we behaved in it as though it is our absolute creation, let alone possession, and that the result is very serious, wal-'iyadhu billah. It is also the means by which Allah distinguishes us from a munafiq, the believer, the true believer, from the hypocrite, the munafiq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the munafiqun in Surah At-Tawbah when He says also, وَالْمُنَافِقُونَ وَالْمُنَافِقَاتُ بَعْضُهُمْ مِنْ بَعْضٍ يَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمُنْكَرِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَقْبِضُونَ أَيْدِيَهُمْ نَسُوا اللَّهَ فَنَسِيَهُمْ إِنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ. Allah, of the characteristics of the worst creatures of Allah, the munafiqun, who claim to be Muslim and who harbor disbelief, is that He says يَقْبِضُونَ أَيْدِيَهُمْ. That is, they hold their hands, a figure of speech for what? For not giving zakah, not giving of the wealth that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon them as a trust. They don't like to do that. Their hearts are not liberated with tawheed, because they say they are Muslims, but inside they deny that they are not. Their hearts have never been touched by tawheed and liberated by tawheed, so they are slaves to other than Allah. Example, wealth. So they love to keep wealth, and they don't want to give wealth of their wealth. Wal-'iyadhu billah. The Sunnah also is very emphatic about that. The Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. As you know, who knows something from the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that emphasizes the obligation and the rukniyyah of zakah. The text from the Sunnah. Nobody knows the text from the Sunnah about zakah? Think about it. I think you do know. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. I said I'm going to make it interactive earlier, but this is part of it. It's true, that's one of the texts indeed. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he sent emissaries, like when he sent Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu ta'ala an, when he sent them to teach them Islam and to practice Islam, he says this and that. He mentions Shahada, Salah, and Zakah. And then take Zakah from them. What else? A text that everybody knows. This text, not everybody knows. Some do know. But this text, everyone should know. Everyone should know. No? That's a good text, but it does not belong to this issue. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. What is the saying of Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu? That's the saying of Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala, not of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala. But that's not the sunnah of Rasulullah. That's the As-Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala emphasizing the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And that text indeed also establishes the obligatory nature of zakah. But a text that all of you know, everybody should know, yes. Exactly. The famous text related by Bukhari and others, where Jibreel comes in the form of a human being and asks Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to teach, and he teaches the 5 pillars of Islam, and of that is zakah. Right? And the famous text also, بُنِيَ الْإِسْلَامُ عَلَى خَمْسٍ. I mean, you know that? That's the first text everybody should learn. Should learn when the child is 5 and 6. بُنِيَ الْإِسْلَامُ عَلَى خَمْسٍ. شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة وصوم رمضان وحج البيت من استطاع إليه سبيلا. As Rasulullah says, Islam is built upon 5 arkan. And he mentions the 5 arkan of Islam: Salah, Zakah, Siyam, Hajj, after mentioning the Shahada in the first place, indeed. So these are the texts also of the text that Rasulullah taught. أَدُّوا زَكَاةَ أَمْوَالِكُمْ طَيِّبَةً بِهَا نُفُوسُكُمْ. أَدُّوا زَكَاةَ أَمْوَالِكُمْ طَيِّبَةً بِهَا نُفُوسُكُمْ. This adds another dimension, because he says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, أَدُّوا زَكَاةَ أَمْوَالِكُمْ. Do give, do establish the zakah of your wealth. What does wealth mean? Mal. What does mal mean? Right. Anything that you own and you possess, of ownable things, that is considered as mal in society. Not only money, everything. أَدُّوا زَكَاةَ أَمْوَالِكُمْ طَيِّبَةً بِهَا نُفُوسُكُمْ. And do that while you do it with a nafs that is طيبة, delighted and elated. Doing it طيب, voluntarily, lovingly. Not doing it like a munafiq. I have to give this. And inside, you're not desirous of that. You show outside that you're a muzakki or kada, just because maybe of the pressures of society, if there are. But inside, there is a constriction, wal-'iyadhu billah. That's an act like of a munafiq. So he says, أَدُّوا زَكَاةَ أَمْوَالِكُمْ طَيِّبَةً بِهَا نُفُوسُكُمْ. Do that while you are delighted. You are munsharih. You love to do that. You're thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He subhanahu wa ta'ala made that obligatory to liberate us, to exalt us, and to draw us nearer to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. اللهم اجعلها مغنما ولا تجعلها مغرما. One of the dua that is related to be said, as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught, when you give zakah also, say اللهم اجعلها مغنما ولا تجعلها مغرما. اللهم اجعلها مغنما ولا تجعلها مغرما. اللهم اجعلها مغنما ولا تجعلها مغرما. Ya Allah, make this zakah a means by which I earn, I win, I am successful. That is in this dunya and in akhirah. that it doesn't turn against me in the manner I do it or something like that. وَلَا تَجْعَلْهَا مَغْرَمًا. Maghram is the opposite of maghnam. Maghnam is something I earn, something that helps me, something that it's a success. Versus maghram is something that is an impediment, a hurdle, something that is inconvenient, something that is an impediment, something that is an obstacle, etc. Like when you have a debt, it's a maghram. Maghram, not maghnam. When you trade and you win, and alhamdulillah, and you have a halal profit, that's maghnam. Maghram is when you lose also. So Allahumma ja'alha maghnaman wa la taj'alha maghrama. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that. When we don't give zakah, wal-'iyadhu billah, people don't do that, of the punishment that is for that in this dunya, regardless now of the punishment of akhirah and the punishment by law, by sharia law, for example, in a sharia compliant society. And that is, for example, when Rasulullah is related to have said, مَا مَنَعَ قَوْمٌ الزَّكَاةَ إِلَّا ابْتَلَاهُمُ اللَّهُ بِالسِّنِينَ. Or in another text, وَلَمْ يَمْنَعُوا زَكَاةَ أَمْوَالِهِمْ إِلَّا مُنِعُوا الْقَطْرَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ وَلَوْلَا الْبَهَائِمُ لَمْ يُمْطَرُوا. When Rasulullah is related to have said that those who withhold their zakah and don't give it when it is due and do that purposely, وَلَعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, then Allah will afflict them with droughts. And in another text, Allah will afflict them by withholding rain, good rain, beneficial rain, not torrential, destructive rain or acid rain. That does happen. That's another affliction. And the affliction of those who withhold zakah purposefully, يُمْنَعُ الْقَطْرَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ. Subhanallah. That Allah Azza wa Jal would deprive them enough rain from the sky, from the heavens. And the text says, this other text says, وَلَوْلَا الْبَهَائِمُ لَمْ يُمْطَرُوا. And yet sometimes there is still rain. Rasulullah said, and if it were not for animals, there would be no rain at all. In other words, the rain, some of us enjoy, some ibad who disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still enjoy, like those who withhold zakah. They are enjoying rain, and there is still rain and water because of whom? The barakah, the blessing of the rats and the dogs and the deer and the cow and the goats and the sheep and the wild animals and the birds. We live by their barakah. Those who withhold zakah, wal-'iyadhu billah. Subhanallah. This is a very moving type of punishment. And we said earlier that there is a text in which he teaches sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, ما خالطت الصدقة أو قال الزكاة مالا إلا أفسدته. That if we mix our wealth with zakah, but we don't give it away, then that zakah that wealth is spoiled. There is no barakah in it. It is stained and spoiled. Is this clear? If one has wealth and did not give zakah of it, that wealth becomes spoiled, khabith, stained, unclean. Wal-'iyadhu billah. Or it is said, if one has wealth and asks for zakah, he's wealthy, he's enough. He's not a person who should receive zakah, but he says, give me sadaqah, give me zakah. And people give him zakah, not knowing the details or doing their best, and they give him or her or them zakah. And that zakah, which Allah knows, for example, which Allah knows he or she or they are not deserving of it, then that will spoil their wealth. Their wealth, all of it becomes facid, spoiled, corrupt, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, unclean. That's why it is very, very bad and it is sinful to request zakah when one is not deserving of that zakah in accordance to the law. This is like, forgive me here to digress a bit. An example of this is what? But not in zakah, in society, here in our society, in the American society. The example of one not deserving of zakah, but requires us for zakah, that spoils wealth, that's bad, that's sinful. Yeah, see, welfare. Welfare. A person who's not deserving of welfare, go ask for welfare and takes welfare money. When they can work, and they have the chance to work, and they have the ability to work, and they look for jobs, they can work. There will be jobs, assuming these are the conditions. And yet they still go and want to be seated and want to get welfare and go through crooked ways to do that. This reminds you of that, doesn't it? This reminds you of that. That's terrible to do. It's wrong to do. It's sinful to do. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is mentioned in a text, "Man a'taha mu'tajiran falahu ajruh." The person who gives zakah seeking by that the reward of Allah, Allah will reward them. وَمَنْ مَنَعَهَا فَإِنَّا آخِذُوهَا وَشَطْرَ مَالِهِ. This is in the context of a Sharia compliant society. That if a person doesn't give zakah, and he must give zakah, or she must give zakah, and there are the people who must give zakah, but prefer to disobey the law in this case, and not give zakah, then Rasulullah said, then if the law discovers that, we will take it by force from him, and in addition to that, an extra penalty. An extra penalty, which is half of that wealth. وَشَطْرَ مَالِهِ. But those who give it خَيْرًا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, alhamdulillah, Allah will reward them. Those who hold that, which is, again, we shall see how much it is, so little. It is the right of the needy and the poor. And it helps the society be balanced economically and socially. And you deprive others of their rights purposely out of greed, then that is punished in this way, even in this dunya. To the extent that in the time of Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, what happened to those who had power and started to deny the giving of zakah, then Sayyidina Abu Bakr waged battles against them because of withholding zakah. Zakah is the right of others, and you cannot go and hurt others purposely on the basis of I do what I want. No. We have already said that the person who denies the obligation of zakah, what is that person? Who denies the obligation of zakah? نَقَضَ إِسْلَامَهُ. And the person who does not deny the obligation of zakah, but withholds and does not give zakah purposely, that person has committed a major sin, and you've been hearing of the consequences are. And it is up to the system of the Sharia at time in whatever land to pass laws to punish these people in whichever manner they see fit, in accordance to the requirements and the conditions of the times. Now assume a person, next question, assume a person has not given zakah for 10 years. And then finally he realizes or she realizes that I have missed giving zakah out of either forgetfulness or ignorance, or he was a fool and repented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What happens from then on? Zakah has always been obligatory. That person has to go back into those years and look at every year and do their best to find out whether at each year, if at each year he or she was one who had to give zakah, then he must or she must give zakah for all the years that have passed. All of them. And he must do that. It's obligatory. It's a haqq, remember. It's the right of the needy and the poor. The fact that one did not do that for 10 or 20 years does not undo it. It remains always obligatory. Always. Like salah. If someone has not performed salah, one of the opinion of the ulama, the jumhur of the ulama, is that he or she must make up all the salawat before. Like each salah, with each salah, another salah for whatever years he missed or she missed. So zakah is the right of the needy and the poor. And if we are in tawbah to Allah Azza wa Jalla, alhamdulillah, and tawbah when it is nasuh, we are happy that there is a solution. Allah can forgive us. Allah forgives us if we do these things, and Allah forgives. And then we give that to the needy and the poor in the categories that are recipients of zakah. Alhamdulillah. Up to this point, is there any question? Zakah to charity? Zakah is charity also. I'm trying to understand your question. In this case, when a person has not given zakah for many years, she's saying, can he give that in charity? Can he give that zakah in charity? I have a little bit of logical difficulty here. Yeah? Oh. Now that's at the end. That's when we talk about who receives zakah. We're going to talk about who receives zakah. And zakah, you give it to the recipients of zakah, which we shall talk about later, inshallah. So zakah, you give to the recipients of zakah, and we shall talk about that later, inshallah. Yes. Alaikum salam. Yeah. Of that upon which the zakah is due. Yeah. Not of that upon which the zakah is due. Or maybe it is he has to give zakah this much and a penalty of half of that. Wallahu a'lam. But remember, if you don't pay, zakah is not a tax. Alhamdulillah, it's very little. And if you don't pay tax, the RIS not only does that and a lot more than that, but you go to jail for 10 years. And you pay all the pounds, and you pay the interest in that, and you pay the penalties, and jail, sometimes 10 and 20 years. Yes? Pardon me? The age, we shall talk about that later. But guess what? If you have money, you have to give zakah, you too. Even though you don't have a beard yet. Just kidding. But yes, zakah is due upon wealth. Has nothing to do with age, by the way, as we shall see. Zakah is upon wealth. It has nothing to do with age. It has nothing to do with age. Even if a child has inherited millions of dollars, and a child is still a child, let's say 6 months old or a year old, and zakah is due upon that wealth. And the guardians have to be the ones to execute the activities, the tasarrufat of that child. Amen. Any other question? Yes. We'll talk about loans later. Yeah. I'm just questions pertaining what we covered up to this point. Karamakallah. Thank you so much.